The first thing they teach you is not where the data comes from. It is how to talk about it without sounding like a criminal. Nobody says victim. Nobody says surveillance. Nobody says we know too much. They say coverage. They say enrichment. They say confidence score. They say consumer intent. And the whole trick of the job is that if the vocabulary sounds boring enough, the morality starts to feel optional. You are not sitting in a dark room with stolen passwords and glowing code. You are sitting in a bright office with a badge, a dashboard, and a manager who smiles like this is just another ordinary business selling ordinary information to ordinary clients. That is what makes the room feel wrong. Nothing looks illegal enough. There are no ski masks. There is no panic. There is just a giant system built around one idea. Every person becomes easier to move once they are easy to read, and your job is to make them readable. When you were hired, the company called itself a data solutions firm. That phrase can hide almost anything. It sounds technical, it sounds modern. It sounds like the kind of business that lives somewhere between marketing, logistics, and software. The office is clean, the onboarding is polished, the internal tools look professional. There are slides about compliance, consent, quality control, and public records. There are legal disclaimers on almost every screen. The whole place is built to calm your conscience before it ever has to face the work. The first week feels strangely harmless. You are not asked to spy on anybody directly. You are asked to merge records, correct mismatched addresses, score phone numbers, verify likely relatives, tag households by age, spending category, move history, recent mortgage activity, and whether they respond to certain types of contact. It sounds administrative. It feels like maintenance. But that is only because the company never shows you the whole machine at once. It breaks people into fields: date of birth, current city, previous address, likely family members, contact history, property ownership, professional profile, shopping signal, app signal, interest cluster, risk marker. One row at a time, it does not look like a human life. It looks like cleanup. And that is how the work gets into your hands without triggering alarm. The moral shock only arrives later, when enough rows become one person again. The company never says it is selling people. It says it is selling lead quality. It says it is reducing friction. It says it helps clients reach the right audience faster. That language is doing real work. Because once somebody says audience, your brain starts imagining ads. But the customers paying the highest prices are not always advertisers. Some are insurers, some are lenders, some are recruiters, some are reputation firms, some are investigators, some are entities hidden behind layered names that tell you nothing at all. And somewhere downstream, in places your company does not officially discuss, there are scam operations, pressure campaigns, extortion attempts, and people search ecosystems that do not need perfect information. They only need enough information to sound familiar. That is the part outsiders misunderstand. A scam call does not become believable because the caller knows everything. It becomes believable because the caller knows just enough. The right city, the right bank, the right age bracket, the fact that someone in the household just moved, the fact that a child recently started college, the fact that the property is paid off, the fact that somebody in the house has been applying for jobs, the fact that a phone number is active and attached to a name that still sounds vulnerable under pressure. A good scammer does not need magic. He needs a profile packet, and your company sells profile packets all day. The turn usually comes from one request, one account, one segment, one internal note that sounds too specific to be normal. Maybe a client wants older homeowners in certain zip codes who answer unknown numbers more often than average. Maybe they want recently unemployed workers with high mobile usage and active messaging apps. Maybe they want people carrying debt, people with public legal stress, people who just changed addresses, people who recently searched for medical help, or people already exposed in older breaches but still attached to current phone numbers. Each request has a corporate explanation: retention, outreach, acquisition, risk management. Nothing in the intake form says fraud, nothing in the dashboard says fear, nothing in the quarterly slide says we are helping strangers sound trusted enough to get close. But that is what the package becomes once it leaves your building. A shortcut into somebody's guard being lowered. A shortcut into a voice on the phone sounding credible. A shortcut into a fake recruiter, fake bank rep, fake debt collector, fake investigator, or fake support agent arriving with just enough detail to push the door open. And once you see that, the rest of the office starts looking different. The silence is no longer professional, it is protective. What the company sells is not only personal data, it sells predictability. It sells the comforting illusion that people can be sorted into pressure points before a conversation even starts. You are helping build the answer sheet before the test. This person is cautious until authority shows up. This person ignores emails but answers texts. This person clicks faster when the message sounds administrative. This person responds to account warnings. This person still uses the same old address in half their records. This person has enough property, age, routine, and exposure to be worth trying again. The company calls this match quality. You start calling it what it is. A map of who can be made legible under stress. And the more legible people become, the less effort it takes to manipulate them. That is why the work never feels dramatic inside the building. The danger has been outsourced. You are not the person making the call. You are the person flattening uncertainty for the person who will. That separation is how the conscience of the entire system stays intact. Everybody handles only one floor of the machine. Nobody is asked to stand in the basement and admit what powers the whole building. This is the most unnerving part. The system survives because it is surrounded by just enough legality, ambiguity, and distance to keep responsibility moving. Some data comes from public records, some comes from brokers buying from other brokers, some comes from app ecosystems, old forms, commercial partners, lead gen funnels, scraped profiles, loyalty systems, and consent boxes. Nobody reads because the alternative is not using modern life. By the time it reaches your screen, it has been washed in paperwork. There are policies, there are retention limits, there are opt-out pages buried 3 clicks deep, there are terms that imply user agreement, there are internal trainings about ethics that feel designed less to stop harm than to prove someone mentioned ethics at all. That is the real genius of the system. It does not need to look clean. It only needs to look complicated enough that responsibility cannot stay still. The harm gets real at the edge, the defense gets written in the center, and you are sitting in the center, where everything sounds one step more respectable than it really is. Then one afternoon you search your own name. At first it feels like a joke, a private little test. You expect a rough outline, maybe an old address, maybe a dead phone number. Instead you watch your life come back to you as inventory. Current location confidence, former roommates, family ties, old usernames, property, history tied to people you know. Behavior scores built from signals you never knew were grouped together. And the shock is not that the file exists. The shock is how normal it looks. No flashing warning, no secret vault, just a clean interface and a purchase path. That is when the wall between producer and product collapses. You are not working on a system that studies people. You are trapped inside a system that inventories them. And if it can inventory you this cleanly, it can inventory almost anybody who has spent enough years touching phones, forms, platforms, addresses, cards, jobs, apps, and public life. You stop seeing a customer database. You start seeing a pre-written script for strangers. After that, ordinary interactions change shape. Every unknown number feels less random. Every flattering email feels more assembled. Every piece of administrative urgency starts sounding like a product demo built from your own life. You realize the modern scam economy does not run only on lies. It runs on context. And context is exactly what your office refines. You start hearing the euphemisms differently. Lead activation, high propensity segment, data hygiene, identity resolution. Each phrase is a little sedation pill. Its job is to move the mind away from faces and toward process. That is why the place does not need monsters. It needs professionals who are willing to stay in role. People who will tell themselves they are only cleaning a spreadsheet, only exporting a list, only improving a match rate, only helping the pipeline. Fear does the rest. Because once your salary depends on never asking where the packet goes next, curiosity starts to feel expensive. That is the hidden truth of the business. You are not just selling data. You are selling shortcuts into trust. You are selling the pieces of a person that let someone else sound close enough, official enough, informed enough, local enough, urgent enough, or personal. Enough to get past instinct. The company will never describe itself that way. It will keep using soft words, legal buffers, and product language. It will keep pretending the danger begins somewhere else, later, in another office, on another call, in another country, with another man. But you already know how the machine is built. It starts in bright rooms. It starts with respectable dashboards. It starts with people who tell themselves they are not touching the harm directly. And if you are the guy who sells everyone's data, that comfort is the first thing the job has to buy from you. Because once that comfort is gone, the whole office stops looking like a business. It starts looking like the loading dock for every lie that arrives already knowing your name.